Okay, time to get up. It's been too long since a Megazord update.
Update day!
So far, our Megazord is only a left foot and a floating chest. It's time to make a big yellow boot that is also a cat.
I'm morphing back into action.
Sabertooth Tiger!
We're wasting no time and starting with this chompy thing that has got me thinking cat jaws. Someone sent this to my garbage P.O. box, and I recognized it immediately from my personal collection. It's none other than Han Solo geared up with Smuggler Flight Pack.
Han Solo geared up with Smuggler Flight Pack.
Which is great, because that means I can just dismantle this one and preserve my precious man-baby Star Wars toys. I'm looking for a miscellaneous robot model kit piece to fit between the two jawbones, and this might be the winner. Before I attach both of these jawbones to the side of this thing, I was thinking it would be pretty neat to add a tube right here so that the jaw can open. Luckily, you all have been sending me mini tubes so this cat can avoid lockjaw. What we're constructing here is the bottom jaw, but I just noticed this prehistoric cat is missing its chin. This cat's chin is made from an action figure's chest plate armor. I kinda like the look of the pecs. It looks like a cute little cleft chin. But look at all these gaps here that don't have teeth. Someone sent me this miniature bear trap with 2 rows of teeth. 1 row for the bottom jaw, and 1 for the top jaw, which doesn't exist yet. Spoilers. Still needs more teeth. What about this diabolical pterodactyl head? Oh, that's a perfect fit. And for this gap, another perfect fit sent to me from Victoria. Now back over on the inside of the mouth, what do we think goes right here? That's exactly right. It's a horseshoe. Alright, that's enough bottom jaw for now. Now to figure out the top jaw. All of the pieces in this bin were sent to me by all of you. They're some of my favorite pieces, the goop de la goop, if you will. I'm looking for the pieces that want to be a cat, and this heatsink situation says cat nose and cat jowl to me. My eyes are being pulled in the direction of things that are already conveniently yellow, but this truck head is a bit too boxy. But this whatever it is from Jacob has that streamlined cat face I'm looking for. This piece frames up nicely with the cat's underbite, and now you can start to see how we got cat shape. For the chomping action, let's make a custom rotation mechanism with this rod. Or we could just use a piece of this pre-built fidget toy. Oof, and with a nice click like that, you know we gotta use it. We'll attach this later, but for now, spray bottle parts. It could be said that the aesthetically pleasing curves of spray bottles echo the sleek design of cats in the wild. I mean, someone could say that. I happen to have 2 of this particular trigger, and when layered under this yellow piece, we get a somewhat angry cat scowl. Alright, not bad, but I think this cat profile could still be streamlined. So when I saw this piece, I had to pull the trigger. I mean, I literally pulled the trigger off of this spray bottle. The nose needed some work, so I sanded it off and built a new one from a few sacrificed Gundam bits. Hey, remember this second set of bear trap teeth? That goes on the upper jaw as promised. And maybe another horseshoe too. Why not hide another hidden mouth surprise? One of the things I'm sent most often are plastic guns. They're great for random mechanical detail, like filling this forehead hole. Speaking of filling holes and other gaps, I knew I had a cat cheek right here. Actually, I have 2. All thanks to the random bits and bobs you've been sending me. It's like the trash just magically appears in my hands.
I got them, Zordon, and I'm on my way!
Which lets me get straight to building. Now, without saber teeth, this is just a tiger, so let's make some scary canines for this feline. But we'll need a sharp point to cap these off. Back when I made the Triceratops, I used one of these knockoff Lego claws. They make a nice saber tooth, but the inside has a major cavity that needs filling. Using a few cc's of my favorite goop as a dental filling, and a properly wet finger to smooth it out, this Smilodon is ready to don its smile. Oh, it's the boy, here with a gift of shoulder pauldrons. Let's return you back to your perch, where you like to keep a watchful eye on the studio. Thank you, the boy. I think these could make a nice set of cat ears once they're trimmed to fit the head. Whoops. Another casualty to the floor gods. If that piece is lost forever, then I guess this cat only has one ear. There it is. I'm trimming this piece on one side so that it can fit super flush against the head. I'm just eyeballing it since I'm more of a measure none, cut twice kind of guy. And that's how I discovered I cut too much, and now I have a huge gap here.
Zordon, what can we do?
What we can do is fill the gap with EVA craft foam and pretend it was always meant to be this way. Maybe the Zord sustained some hearing damage and needed a metal plate replaced. But the important part is I didn't screw it up on the second ear too.
Practice makes perfect.
It's time to connect the jaws together, but my fidget toy joint is a bit short. So I'll just add more fidget toy to the fidget toy before bonding the pieces in the most reliable way I know, which is a lot of hot glue and then blow on it. Down in my sci-fi drawer, I have a decommissioned space shuttle which lost its wings in a previous build. But the engine shielding on the back looks a lot like a cat throat, right? First, I'm attaching it very precariously to a couple of popsicle sticks. Then, for extra strength, I'm injecting this mystery gap with an obscene amount of hot glue. Fill that puppy up. It's none of my business what happens on the inside. Quick aside before we continue the neck, I had this extra pair of Gundam shoes, never worn, and I thought they looked like whiskers. That's all. Ooh, what are these? Lego? Nope, these are my generic brand plastic brick building system toys. I try not to desecrate any actual gold standard Lego bricks on builds, until today. I'm yoinking this Bionicle piece. It may have been a chest in its previous life, but its forever home will be the underside of a neck. With this armor in place, the neck looks thick and sturdy enough to add some articulation. Specifically a neck bend like the Triceratops for when it turns into a big boot. That means I'm gonna have to sacrifice another Lego. I mean, listen to this.
Do it again.
This is a quality stiff joint, which is important because there is going to be a lot of cat head resting on it, but it's not heavy enough yet.
Wait!
It's time to pilfer the Gundam bit box and see what other pieces we can Frankenstein into the leftover gaps in the armor. But this head and neck surgery isn't solely Bandai plastic. I'm dipping into all my junk reserves as long as it fills the gap. So if the bit fits, glue it, as they say. We are running out of space, so how about this space station? These solar panels were a lightsaver for covering up the last gaps in the neck, which means it's body time. Trash contributor Emily sent me these two chewing gum containers. Now in my mind, they look just like cat shoulders with a snatched waist. Let's remove the threaded ring top and carve out a space for when it folds into boot mode. Not bad, but when we're in cat mode, there is a lot of gum container that needs filling with random detail. And random detail is exactly what you've all been sending me. Thank you so much for all these offerings. Since these are somewhat hidden interior details, it's safe to fill the guts with recognizable tank treads and other tank parts. But if they still read as tank parts in the end, that's just a fun Easter egg for eagle-eyed viewers. I really don't like how thin this plastic is here, so my one thick trick for making this look more heavy-duty is to superglue in a sheet of foam board. Now, fun fact, though the Sabertooth Tiger is a quadruped, it has a vestigial trait in these sometimes useless car tire shoulders. For the biology nerds, this is an example of convergent evolution that this prehistoric cat shares with another organism, the bumblebee. The shoulders need to spin wheelie well, so I'm making an axle using these interconnecting pipe toys. Ooh, lucky me, these toys include wheels. But the tricky part when you don't plan anything is knowing where to mount them. I'll just stick to the corner because it'll be the least in the way over there. Now for the axle mount, which is going to get hella torqued, You can't just glue a round peg into a round hole, so there's a secret screw to help keep it in place. Now for the wheels, which lack traction. Someone sent me this rubber tire, which is emblazoned with a lot of information that is not part of the Power Rangers canon. I'm gonna see if I can scrape it off with a craft blade, but this is not very effective.
There has to be another way.
There kind of is. Using the business end of a hot glue gun, I'm melting the letters into a lumpy but at least illegible mess. Now, while I only have this single tire, I think tonight is the night when one becomes two tires.
When love becomes two.
These tires only need to be one-sided anyway, so after wrapping the wheels in a rubber sheath and heat sealing the seam with the hot glue gun, we now have two copies of the original tire. I added another pipe toy on the inside of each wheel, which means each shoulder will be able to spin freely around the axle when it's Megazord time. But now, it's pizza time.
Pizza time.
And you all know it's pizza time because this is how many pizza tables I've received in the mail. So far, don't send more. I'm only after the pizza hubcaps, but always save the legs for future projects. Whoops, suddenly I'm distracted and wishing this Sabertooth Tiger had whiskers. That's because I was digging through my junk bin and found these little beauties, razor guards for shaving human whiskers. I'd say RoboCat whiskers are about a number 3 clipper blended into the sideburns. Back on the body, the front wheel needs a fender. Now, there are just so many creative choices and unique pieces of junk that I could use. Ooh, how about these fenders? Let's pause on the body for now while we finish the front leg. Back when I made the Triceratops, I found this neat model kit piece for the tank tread fender. Now, if only I had some more of... I do. This piece will be the start of the Sabertooth Tiger bicep, and now we can embellish with more bits. But first, pick a sprue, any sprue. I'm feeling this one. I think of this part of kitbashing as kind of like a continuous game of yes and improv. No planning out the scene ahead of time, I'm just adding one piece at a time, no take-backsies, and building on whatever I just added. If it fits the space and it looks pretty cool, then it gets the glue. Like these two leg pieces from a Chibi Gundam model.
Chibis or Chibis, depending on which part of the country you come from.
These Chibis Gundam parts are a pretty good fit, which, ooh, that reminds me. I just got this delivery from Joseph, a delightful cornucopia of non-Chibis proportioned Gundam bits. Oh, should we logically work on the elbow next? Nah, let's do the wrist. I've been gifted this clicky joint and I cannot stop clacking it. The wrist is made from Gundam bits and beads, or wait, wrist, ankle? Is this a wrist or an ankle? It's kind of like the classic mystery of how a Sabertooth Tiger would wear pants. In any case, these toes/fingers need claws, but I only have 3 knives. So let's make a 4th knife from this mystery plastic that someone sent me. Claws are basically the knives of the animal world, but what's better than knives? Swords. But 2 swords are better than 1, thanks to this double delivery from both Adam and Miles. The blades are nice, but I only need the sword hilts today.
Swords are no more use here.
These 4-claw knife and sword bouquets complete each of the Sabertooth Tiger's front feet. Then we need to connect the dots between the wrist and the elbow. But Zords don't have regular bones, they have...
guns.
Many of you have been sending me these, and they make great robot bones. One for the start of the skeleton, but what to use to beef out these bones?
Lots of guns.
Yep. Once the arms are thick enough, I want to protect these robot innards with some armor panels. So in comes the Gundam box with exactly what we need. In the fake rules for this fake game I invented, using robot parts to make robot parts feels like cheating, but I can't resist Gundam.
It's simply too good.
Quick fit check with the head and the body so far. Ooh, that's a spine hole. But we won't know how long it's supposed to be until we compare it to the previous foot Zord.
7.
Oh, my back!
First, a pipe toy as the future Zord connector piece, which we'll discuss later. Then a couple of these empty label cartridges. These are just for structure, a canvas of bulk garbage to attach other garbage to later.
More. More.
Whoops, I keep getting distracted. I'm using some foam board to create a wheel well cover for the inside of the fender. And as long as I'm distracted, let's use this mystery piece that someone sent me. This will be both a Zord vent and a way to hide some of the gum container plastic on the underside. Now more on this Zord hole. Unfortunately, this is the location for the Megazord connection point on this Zord. So the Sabertooth Tiger will have to lift its tail for the Tyrannosaurus to dock its knee in its hindquarters. Since this is such an important part of Zord anatomy, I want the hole to look really nice. So here's the housing from a tiny speaker that I ripped out of a dog a couple years ago. And it's a perfect fit around the pipe toy. Speaking of pipe toys, 2 of them glued end to end make a nice axle for our hind legs, so let's make those next. Just like the front legs, the hind legs are also road ready with rubber tires. These tires from this SUV model kit sent to me by Jennifer are much better suited for my SUZ, but will hide those classic Cadillac hubcaps with gunpla bits. Owen sent me this specialty grabber for gunpla bits, so I don't have to touch the pieces with my bare hands, yuck. This bit is the beginning of a meaty Zord drumstick. Oh, but wait, these grabbers are perfectly drumstick shaped. These orange handles are the thigh canvas, to which we'll attach more gunpla leg details. Then for the lower legs, I pulled the trigger on this spray bottle because its trigger just had such a beautifully sculpted calf shape. I'm locking the knees in place with hot glue because I'm lazy. But I'm also afraid that if there are too many moving joints, this young prince might fall down. On the back of the Sabertooth calves are more wheels so it can keep on rolling in tank mode. I'm making said wheels out of various board game pieces that someone harvested from a copy of Cranium before donating it to Goodwill, which is the kind of used board game that sits on a shelf for 6 years before someone brings it home and later realizes it's incomplete. What these legs need now are some more mechanical details. I'm thinking
Guns.
If we remove any distinguishing features like barrels and triggers, we're left with a nondescript heatsink and pistons to keep these legs pumping. In that same box, I also found a pair of ankles, so let's truncate this tibia and start building a foot, which, like the knee, is locked in place and only gives the illusion of movement.
It's claw time.
I had a few extra claws clipped off that sword hilt from earlier, then after a couple extraneous gunpla bits, these feet are done. While I fill out the remaining leg gaps with various mechanical accoutrements, I wanted to give a shout out to all the StudBud Patreon members. Special thanks to Thomas Drury Wong, Shark in Hats, Patrick Kennedy, Milk Boy, Benjamin Shavik, Mr. Waffle Stomper, Elise Wayne, and that handsome llama. You are the Zordon, motivating me to keep pumping my legs on this channel.
I don't know if I can make it, Zordon.
You must, Trini. You are almost there. You can do it.
Speaking of legs, they're all done. Back on the body, the next question is what to use for the cat's tail.
Gun.
Kayakosaurus sent me this piece. It's an arm cannon that came off of a Bumblebee figure. Since this comes from a pretty recognizable movie franchise, the goal here is to cover it with enough stuff so as to hide its original origin. Before gluing on the tail, I'm using a trick I learned from Bill Making Stuff. If you have 2 types of plastic that are not cooperating with glue, try gluing a piece of craft foam between them. The bond will be extra strong and flexible, which is useful for a moving Zord tail. We'll keep the cannon out of the way while I build a catwalk with an extremely strict diesel punk aesthetic. Just kidding, here's a 2005 Cadillac Escalade floorboard, flanked in pieces of the fuselage from a Curtiss P-40B Warhawk. A lot of these model kit pieces are divorced from their original partners, so we're left with various owie sharp bits. So just fill those in with whatever, and now it looks like some important mechanism. Ooh, but what if the cannon was
Longer.
I felt like the cannon could use a little extra oomph, so I cut out a slot where this new extended tip could fit. The tail cannon didn't often get deployed in the show, but when it did, what a treat. For the last part of the side panel, there's a fender that fits over the legs and hides them when they're tucked up in boot mode. So let's pop them on. We'll need some large curved piece of plastic. And I'm already locked in on this one because I could never forget those nostril curves that sweep out to the side.
Wah!
This is a legacy piece of trash that I've had kicking around for 4 years. It almost became a Chainsaw Man head until I realized it wasn't quite right and I didn't want to play with it anymore. But now it's back because that side flare hugs the legs perfectly. Now the trick is going to be bridging the red piece to the yellow piece, and I'm pretty sure I have what I need at the bottom of Trash Mountain. I really appreciate how big plastic makes some of their trash transparent. That way you can trace the space you're trying to fill. But my tracing was a bit imprecise, and now I'm left with gaps on either side. No worries though, because I have a second gum container which has been designed to fit the curves of the first gum container. So this is the part of the build where we're covering edges and filling any last remaining gaps with straight pieces. And at this point, I'd say this cat knows us pretty well and is comfortable enough to roll over for tummy scratches. You know what she needs?
Guns.
The underside is one of those areas where you can cut corners because you're never going to see it, so here goes this action figure backpack accessory. But what to fill in this space with? A couple of these applesauce caps could work, but I think I'd rather use this carefully pre-built assemblage of bits perfectly sized for this hole. Now, one thing I didn't notice until a comment pointed it out was that each Zord is emblazoned with a letter, and I think that's an S.
That is a very tricky letter, let me think. S, as in...
Sabertooth Tiger. Actually, we're sporting 2 monograms on this Zord. A lumpy S for Sabertooth, and then a lumpy T for Tooth, or probably Tiger, Tooth Tiger. I cut out all of these Zord decals on craft foam. Then I slapped on my cool S and the rest of the embellishments. Next up is adding rivets, which is where all these disparate pieces of plastic start to appear like they're meant to be slapped onto one robot. It's truly one of the most morphitutinous parts of any build. Whoops, ran out of rivets. Let's flip these up real quick. All right, let's go.
That was truly morphitutinous, Trini.
Thanks, Billy.
And now that everything's fully assembled, we can prep these pieces for a coating of black primer.
Next, the creams travel through 2 curtains of chocolate.
Once primed, the first stage with painting is a metallic silver dry brush. These Zords have been cooking in the dirt for millions of years, so they're a little tarnished. The Sabertooth Tiger Zord is really just a big old mustard foot. So the first pass is 2 coats of yellow ochre, which is almost a little more Dijon than yellow mustard. I'm being careful not to get the paint too close to the edges because I want the paint to look chipped, and the silver border helps each plate pop. After this coat of yellow, the second shade is more yellow, only brighter. Except you can't really tell. It's so subtle that I probably didn't need to buy this paint and could instead just turn the saturation up in post until it looked like a peak performance YouTube thumbnail. Then for the side decals, sorry I just came down with a cold, so this is what I sound like for the rest of the video, and we must trudge forward. But that's okay because we're just about done, which means you'd only need to endure this congested voice for a few minutes more. Or you could leave now, but you shouldn't, because then not only would you miss me struggling to sing a whole slew of Patreon shoutouts, but you'd also miss the culmination of this entire video. The assembly of this Zord and transformation into a Bigfoot. That is to say, it's Morphin time.
Michael Joyce, Beige, Paladin, Xerix, Monkeys, No Fox Given, Creative, Wicked Goblin King, Kenneth Clark, Henry Cole, Fox and Evie, Sean McLaughlin, Matter Luck, and 4IV, Kyle Vane, Trickyville, Kaka, Travis Merrill, Lily Fleming, Cody P, Akihime, Emily, Ashley Perez, Milk and Bean, Zachary Sterling, Eliza, Henry, Sadie, Trevor Hughes, Anissa, Siobhan, Otter, Kai Hollis, Santa Spirinum, Funk That Handsome,
ya.